What's up, guys? Happy Wednesday. Welcome to episode 25 of The Attachment Confessions. My name is Chelsea, and I'm so glad that you decided to tune in today. I'm always pumped to have you here, but today I'm especially excited because I know that today's episode is going to be so helpful and so relatable to a lot of y'all listening. And just in case you're an Attachment Confessions first timer, let me fill you in on what the pod is all about. From the moment I discovered attachment science, everything about every relationship I had ever been in finally made sense. And now I'm figuring out what it takes to earn my attachment security and have the best possible relationships from now on. Here on the Attachment Confessions, we'll be diving into all things attachment science while you guys tag along on my attachment healing adventure. My hope is that by bringing attachment science to those of you who have never heard of it before, and by sharing my own story, you'll also be inspired to set out on your own attachment healing journey. Fun fact, attachment is learned, which means that an insecure attachment can be unlearned. Earning your attachment security is 100% possible. So if having the best relationships of your life is your goal, just like it is mine, you're in the right place. Before we dive into today's discussion, I wanted to remind you of the exciting new partnership between the Attachment Confessions and my personal go-to attachment expert, Dr. Sarah Hensley. Listeners of this podcast can use the code Chelsea10 at thelovedoc.com to receive 10% off any of Dr. Hensley's attachment healing programs and services. If you're wondering, okay, I've learned about attachment, I know which attachment style I have, I know what my partner's attachment style is, now what? Learning and implementing Dr. Hensley's attachment healing methods, that's your next step, okay? Knowledge is great, but growth doesn't come from knowledge alone. You have to take action. Her programs are rooted in science. This is how you take your healing to the next level, from the head knowledge to actually earning your attachment security. This is how to have the best relationships of your life. Again, the code is Chelsea10 for 10% off. Check out the link in the show notes. Don't sleep on this. I'm telling you guys, it's life-changing. Also, be sure to stick around until the end of the episode. I have something new that I've been working on that I'm really excited to bring to you guys. Alrighty, y'all. If you listened to our last episode, things got real personal for your girl, diving into the most painful relationship dynamic when it comes to attachment styles, the fearful avoidant with the dismissive avoidant. Well, today I am so grateful for our guests who are in the freaking trenches of this dynamic as we speak, and they're here to share their story of what it's like. I know that so many of you are going to see yourselves in their story. So, without any further ado, let's get to my discussion with Tesha and Taylor. Welcome to the podcast, you guys. I'm so excited to have you here.
We're so excited to be here.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Of course. So we'll start with Tesha. If you don't mind just giving us a brief synopsis of your childhood and how your fearful avoidant attachment formed.
Yeah, I am a fearful avoidant. I know we started talking because initially I thought I was an AP, and we'll get into all of that, but I grew up in a lot of dysfunction. To give the broad strokes, there was, I would say, addiction issues, abuse issues, domestic violence. When I saw conflict, it meant turmoil. So I watched my mother go in and out of a lot of relationships. And whenever she would get into like fights or arguments, it would usually mean like we were moving, that relationship was ending, that our stability was, at risk. There were times that she would argue with my grandparents, and then we just wouldn't see my grandparents for 2 or 3 years. So stable, consistent, safe support was not something that I was accustomed to. I experienced some abuse. I experienced some really hurtful words that stuck with me. Things like, specifically remember a time being told that I would die alone because I was impossible to love. And that really, even at 42 years old, I think that to myself whenever I have a conflict now. So in that, all I wanted as an adult, like I would think when I'm an adult, I can make my own decisions and my home will be like safe and stable. But yeah, so just lots of instability, and I never knew that conflict could be safe. I only knew that it brought turmoil.
Oh my gosh, that broke my heart whenever you said that. It's hard not to respond immediately whenever someone says something like that, but I obviously didn't want to interrupt you, but I'm so sorry that you were ever told that or made to feel that way.
Yeah.
And that stuff does stick with people.
Yeah.
Words
Yeah.
have the power of life and death. Right? The tongue has the power of life and death. That's absolutely true.
Yes.
And so I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So Taylor is your husband, and how long have you all been married?
6 years.
6 years.
6 years. Okay, awesome. So Taylor is the dismissive avoidant in the relationship. Taylor, if you don't mind giving us just a brief rundown of what you experienced in your childhood that gives the listeners a glimpse into how your DA attachment formed.
Yeah, so growing up, my parents were married as they currently are. I've been married for about 50 years, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Exact
So,
opposite of my upbringing. So,
long time for sure. Very traditional. I can't recall a time where they were never present in our lives. I'm an identical twin. I also have an older sister. They were always at our events, games. Yeah, I can't remember a time that they were never there. So they were always present. That was something that meant a lot to me growing up. They were just always present. They also worked together in their relationship as far as parenting. They were very strong, united front, but also when it came to like their relationship dynamic, a lot of that happened behind closed doors. And honestly, I can't recall like a time that they were angry with each other. If they ever were, they happened behind closed doors.
So I know that you said that they were there for you physically. They were at all of your games and events, and they were very supportive in that manner, which is a huge blessing, obviously. Tell me a little bit about how it was in terms of expressing feelings. Were you able to do that with them?
So when it came to feelings, it was almost non-existent. My parents worked really hard to provide for us as kids, and they never wanted to see us unhappy. And so like feelings kind of just, if they were negative feelings, they kind of just got dismissed, really.
yeah. Well, something your mom has said to me, when we've had discussions is like, you're only as happy as your unhappiest kid. So it's almost like it impacted her. Like if they were unhappy, she internalized that too.
Yeah.
Like it came from a place of love and wanting you to be happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that a lot of times the dismissive avoidant attachment style specifically can get a bad rap. That's an unfair bad rap because the parents love their children. They just don't often know how to address when negative emotions arrive from their child. Positive emotions, they're there for it all day. They're praising their child when they achieve or are showing responsibility and things like that. But a lot of times when a child brings a negative emotion, they just don't know how to handle that, right? And that doesn't make them a bad parent by any means. It's just a matter
Right.
of capacity and
Yeah.
not feeling comfortable with handling emotions that aren't positive. So,
Yeah, we were talking before this, and it was like, honestly, they were doing the very best with the information that they had, with the tools and the resources that they had. And I won the in-law lottery. Like, they are really amazing people. But like, and now we have all of this new information and we're parenting this way. And like in 20 years, our kids will be on a podcast talking about how we screwed them up in a completely different way. Like,
Right.
every generation just tries to do like a little better.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you, Taylor, for giving us a glimpse into how your dismissive avoidant attachment was formed in childhood. I know that that's super helpful for people to be able to hear it straight from the DA and from the FA, in your case, Tesha, of how two totally different experiences, right? Two totally different childhoods, and that creates different attachment styles in people. So what I want to talk about next, I'll start with Tesha on this one again, is if you don't mind just giving us a glimpse into some of your previous romantic relationships so that we can see how your fearful avoidant attachment style played out in those.
Yeah, so I mean, I gave away my age, and
You got this, baby.
Hey, 42 is the new 32. Don't even trip.
yes.
She's 32. Don't worry for you.
Well, I mean, I said my age, and we've only been married 6 years, so obviously we got married a little like later in life, not too late in life, but it's also our second marriage for both of us. I think that in my past, I really looked to fill that hole that I had. Like I said, when I was a child, I made promises to myself for the life that I wanted of, peace and stability, but at all costs I was going to prove that I was super lovable. And when I was in college, I found myself in a relationship with a man that it wasn't a good relationship, and we had a child before we were married, obviously not planned. And my focus became giving my daughter the life that I never had. And that meant 2 parents in the same house, married, church, white picket fence, little dog. I wanted the whole package for my daughter because I loved her so much, and I obviously still love her so much. I wanted her to have everything that I didn't. And that included trying to make a relationship and a marriage that was not fruitful, was not successful, was not going anywhere, where he was giving me every red flag that he did not want to be in this relationship, really just forcing that to work. And then as our problems got bigger, because there were a lot of them, it was incredibly dysfunctional. And the more dysfunctional it got, it looked very different than my relationship with Taylor. I actually went avoidant. He would be emotionally activated, and because there was some betrayal and there was hurt, and I was not healed from that, I was not able to move on, and it was betrayal and hurt in that marriage. I lost respect for him and was able to just like shut down. I needed space. I needed to leave the room, and it came to a head, and you and I talked about that offline, and we won't get into that, but there was a day that I just felt the Holy Spirit say, like, if you forgive this, if you let this pass, this is the rest of your life. And I just couldn't have that. And so I made the difficult decision to, unfortunately, leave that marriage. And I say unfortunately because unfortunately for my children, that they didn't get that life that I think all children deserve, which is, mom and dad and love and under the same roof. And when you get a divorce, you don't just grieve the relationship, but you also grieve the future that you thought you were going to have, the future that you thought your children were going to have. I met my ex-husband when I was 19, about to turn 20, and we divorced about a year before I met Taylor. So that was my dating experience. I did try to get back into the dating field, after my divorce. I didn't want that to be my whole story. And it was like, oh my gosh, like it hasn't changed since college. These men are still out here playing head games. So I will just say, like, it's funny that to see my anxious side come out, because even when we were talking about like dating, like I got up in the middle of a first date and like was like, this isn't gonna work. Like, thanks so much. It was really easy for me to disqualify people and like have really strict boundaries when it came to what I would and wouldn't accept. And so,
Yes.
if somebody was ghosting or if they came on too strong, I was just like, I'm out. I've already had crazy. I'm not doing crazy again. So that's my limited dating and romantic history.
Yeah, well, I mean, gosh, whenever you experience a traumatic relationship and a long-term relationship, and when you finally have the courage and the clarity from the Lord that you had been searching for, I'm sure, a very long time, to exit that relationship, you are on guard after that, right? Like your nervous system is just not gonna put up with any type of red flag or orange flag, right? You're just like, nope,
Yeah.
bye, Felicia. I do not feel safe here. Even if that person is, in the grand scheme of things, a nice guy, but any little thing is just like, nope, this isn't gonna work for me. Bye. So I get it. I get it. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Taylor, if you don't mind giving us a glimpse into your prior romantic past before meeting Tesha, to give us an idea of how your dismissive avoidant attachment showed up in those relationships, that would be awesome.
Okay, so I was previously married as well. Shocker, as a DA. I think I met my right. I met my ex-wife when I was like 19 or something. Kind of started dating a year or so. After that, we were kind of on and off again. A lot of long distance. I actually enjoyed that. I think that's like
A DA thing. Low
Yes.
stakes.
yes, for sure. She ended up graduating, moving back home. And then shortly after that, I graduated from college as well, moved back home with my family. And then very quickly after that, we kind of got married. Very quickly.
Just kind of happened.
Yeah,
Kind of.
yeah. And that kind of lasted about 4 or 5 years. We had our first child within our first year of marriage. We were young. We didn't ever talk about like goals as married couples or our needs for each other. It was kind of strange, but I mean, it was kind of something I was used to, you know?
Right, yeah. When you're young, too, it's not necessarily something that, I mean, you haven't had the life experience yet, right? To know, to be like, let's talk about our future vision together and our goals. When you're 20, you're just like, I'm in love, let's get married and live happily ever after, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So
Yeah.
it was very foreign to me. And then I think we were really both taken by surprise when we weren't meeting each other's expectations. And then I kind of realized that she wanted to be a mother more than she wanted to be a wife. I would try and talk to her about my feelings and needs. They kind of got shut down a lot. And so a lot of the feedback I would be given would be like, you're selfish. How dare you? It's not about you anymore. It's about the kids. So it hurt my pride, hurt me as a person, that my feelings weren't being heard, really.
The way that you guys did conflict kind of reinforced your dismissive avoidance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like now that we're learning about all of this, like the shutting down of the feelings.
It kind of mirrored my relationship with my parents growing up as well.
Yeah. So it felt familiar, but it didn't feel good, obviously, because no one wants their feelings to be invalidated or dismissed or to be told you're selfish for having needs.
For sure.
Thank you, Taylor, for giving us that insight into that previous relationship. I think that that'll really be helpful as well. So, paint me the picture of you both exited first marriages and then found each other. Praise be. So, tell us that story.
He always tells people that we met on Farmers Only. Like that's his like go-to. He's like straight face. They'll be like, we met on Farmers Only.
Yeah.
So we did meet on a dating app. It just wasn't Farmers Only,
Yes.
and it wasn't any of the gross ones. Though they all kind of feel gross. It's like Amazon Prime for people. And
It's true.
we talked for like a month before we ever met each other. Like we had texted and FaceTimed. I'm obviously all about safety, so I had case netted him. And then
Thank
peeped
God I
his,
was clean.
peeped his social media to make sure who he was presenting himself to me to be was like who he was presenting himself to the rest of the world. Are you the same person in all environments? So then we went on our first date, and it was so sweet. It was like the best first date in the whole world.
Okay, time out.
Okay.
Time out. I want to start first before you.
About our first date?
Yeah.
Okay.
Taylor.
So do you want me to like backtrack and talk about like meeting on the dating app, or?
No, just about
Okay.
how we first met. in
Okay,
person.
I'll let
Yeah.
you talk about that.
Okay, so I was super excited. I really wasn't too nervous, and we just decided out on the limb to go to an art walk or something, just for the day to just, spend some time together, do something out of the ordinary, unconventional, I guess. She showed up and didn't have makeup on, and it truly gave me a good feeling that this is a special woman that is super comfortable in her own skin. She's not afraid. She's confident. I could tell she was an honest person, And that really, truly meant a lot to me. I'll let you finish.
Yeah. Well, I remember like being at the Nike store. It was the first time like anyone had looked that genuinely excited to see me. Like, it sounds cheesy, but he had like a twinkle in his eye. It was so sweet. And so like when I saw his face light up, I forgot I didn't have makeup on. And it was raining, and I have naturally like curly hair, so my hair started to frizz. Like, not how you want to show up on a first date, but I forgot that I didn't have makeup on. Like, we had such good conversation, and then towards the end of the date, like, we didn't have like a time limit, but we had walked the entire plaza twice, so it was like, what are we doing? And he said, what are you doing the rest of the day? And I was like, I gotta drop a bomb. I am a homebody. I'm gonna go home and make tacos and play with my dog, and you are welcome to come with. And then I got halfway home and I was like, he better not think that I'm gonna do anything. I really just want to eat tacos and play with my dog and like hang out with him some more, because I wasn't really ready to not be hanging out with him. But we played cards and watched a movie, and he was
My
a gentleman.
favorite movie.
Yep. And then that's all she wrote. I was like, I got to see this guy again. Like, everything you did was just right. You weren't overwhelming, but you weren't like standoffish. So, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's amazing. So, I'm wondering if, Taylor, you had any idea of what attachment styles or anything like that even was up until that point. And Tesha, were you aware of attachment?
I was very limitedly aware. Like, I knew about like attachment parenting, but I
Okay.
didn't think about my own attachment style ever. And just to like give some background, because it kind of sounds like we had this first date and we fell in love and then we just like got married the next day. But like, we actually, like, when you're a single parent, like, the relationship pace was really slow, and like, because you're kind of forced to, because you date when you don't have your kids. Everything Taylor did was like the perfect amount. Like, he didn't text too much, but he didn't leave me on red for 2 days at a time. And we had a lot of talks, so we didn't have like a lot of conflict. We didn't even know that we had messed up attachment styles, because
We didn't fight for a year.
yeah, like, we didn't have any
Or
conflict.
argue,
Like,
whatever, yeah.
I think we both felt like really safe in this relationship.
Let me
Right.
ask you this. Is it because you both had gotten out of such not great marriages that when you guys met and got along so well, it was almost just like a breath of fresh air? Like, what even is there to fight about? Like, this is just amazing, kind of, because it was so different from what you had just gotten out of?
He had been divorced longer than I had been. And I think, yes, when you get divorced, you definitely have some introspection of like what you do and don't want. So, and you're older and you're like, this is what I want. So we had a lot of discussions about like expectations and what we wanted. and the pace of the relationship was slow.
Yeah, and honestly, that was new to me. I had never done that before, and so it's crazy. Like I had never done that in all my years of my life. Talked about expectations with another woman, so it was actually exciting.
Yeah.
Tell us then how you said you didn't have any sort of conflict, fights, problems, nothing for a year.
So when people say, like, how did you not fight or how did you not have any conflict for a year? Like, there was opportunity. Other people they would fight in those instances. So I was like, we've got great communication. Like, so it wasn't just like we were on our best behavior. It was, we were doing life, but like, it was so refreshing to like not have conflict with somebody. Them being safe and secure. Like, we had the perfect co-regulation until a year in. So
And that's what I was going to say is my wife at the time.
it was me, but
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
girlfriend at the time,
Yes,
but now
girlfriend
wife.
at the time, my bad. Made me feel safe. And so, like, that's really what made a difference for me is feeling safe and
Yeah.
being vulnerable with her. And I didn't feel like she was going to shut me down and make fun of me or something like that. So,
Yeah, because as Tesha being a fearful avoidant, her biggest need is to feel seen, heard, and understood, but also has the same desire to see, hear, and understand her partner as well. It's not just it's the Tesha show, it's the fearful avoidant show. That need is reciprocated both ways. And so that was probably a new feeling for you, which a lot of times with dismissive avoidance, that can feel very terrifying and overwhelming and make them shut down.
yeah.
But maybe
Yeah.
you were seeking somebody to actually give you the space to be able to share who you really are and how you really feel, and she gave you that platform, and so you were finally able to open up to somebody in that way that you never were able to before. So that's amazing.
No, I just kind of wanted to touch a little more on that. So, like, the safety piece was big for me, but also the fact that she listened and heard me. I think that's another piece.
I'm assuming that during that 1 year period of bliss where there was no conflict, no problems, tell the listeners a little bit of how that honeymoon period suddenly came to an end, and now our attachment styles are on full display going at each other.
Well, it was very memorable.
It was memorable. So, we had this year of just bliss and honeymoon, but we had not been on a honeymoon yet because we weren't married. And we had talked about getting married. And Taylor knew that my one desire was to not see the proposal coming. So, I had been married before, and as a woman, that proposal moment, we all build that up in our minds, and it's supposed to be like super emotional and present and everything. And I hadn't had that experience. And so I really wanted to not see it coming. So Taylor had the bright idea to make sure that I did not see it coming.
I mean, you told me not to. So, I'm a guy, babe.
He did not.
You tell me that? I'm going to make sure it's like you're
Taylor's
definitely not
like,
going to see it
oh,
coming.
hold my beer.
Hold my beer. I'm going to act like I'm breaking up with her for 2 whole weeks. So, and I'm trying to play it cool, but I did not yet know that I was a fearful avoidant. I did not know how to express my needs. I'm trying to play it cool. So I would go running, and it was, during COVID. So I was outside, like going on runs, trying not to cry, trying to keep it together, being like, how did I screw this up? What am I going to do? Like, this is going to hurt real bad. Cause like, I didn't just fall for this guy. Like, I dove in the pool willingly, handed him my heart. Here you go. And now I'm about to be hurt. So for 2 weeks, I completely think that I'm about to be hurt. And I am dysregulated, but like being dysregulated in private. And he wasn't fighting, but he was distant. He was a little cold. Like one time I was like, what movie should we watch? And he was like, The Breakup. And I was like, The Breakup? Like, I can read like 20 different things into that. So it was agony. Because I'm an FA, I internalized that and was like, what did I do wrong? What is missing from me? Why am I not lovable? Why is he out? He woke up one morning and he was in like a really good mood, and we had made plans to go to the lake house and his parents' lake house. So then, I really started overthinking on the way to the lake house, and I'm like, wait a second, we were perfect. We were great. We were made for each other. And like, he's getting ready to break up with me, and he married her. Mm-hmm. And so what were you thinking? Like, I'm like monopolizing this story, like to explain like my headspace, but like, that's where my headspace was. So we went on to the dock, and I thought,
you want to know what I was thinking?
What?
I was like, she definitely doesn't know. I'm doing a good job.
I'm doing a great job. She is dysregulated. She's got all the butt sweat. And so
my plan's working.
But inside I'm freaking nervous. Like, this is about to happen.
I
can't let her know.
No. So we're
can't show it.
We're on the dock, but my nervous system is still like, why her, not you? Why her, not you? Like, yip yapping. And we go down to the dock, and I'm trying not to talk about it. I'm stuffing that down, like stuffing that nervous system down. And I decided right then and there, I needed to know, why her? Like, jealousy, comparison got the best of me. Why are you getting ready to break up with me? But what was so special? What is missing from me? What is lacking in me? Like, I was in my fearful avoidant space in an anxious way like I had never been before. And so Taylor was like, can we not talk about this? Can we please not talk about this? And I don't know if it was as much avoidance as like not wanting to have that conversation in this moment.
Cool.
Yeah. And then you said, I'm trying to propose to you. Because what were you waiting for? Like, why'd you let me get that far?
I thought I was being respectful and allowing you to speak.
Yeah. But
yeah. If I could do it all over again, I probably wouldn't go that far.
So, yeah, he was like, I'm trying to propose to you. Now, any other woman right now in a regulated, normal state would be like, oh, you are? But instead of being like, my nervous system was like, he's just trying to get out of a fight.
Oh my God.
So I said, no, you're not. And then I realized like, oh yes, he is. And I fell to pieces. Like, I was not okay, and he was not okay. Like, and it took us like an hour or two to recover, and then we got engaged. So
okay,
I didn't see it coming. He nailed it.
Hey, he just followed instructions. Yeah. All he did was follow instructions. I think he followed them a little too hard, but he followed them.
He sure did.
So that was the first fight. The first fight happened when Taylor is literally trying to propose to you.
Yes. Yeah. We can laugh about it now, but there were a lot of tears.
Oh, yeah.
And the challenge for me was we had no idea what was about to happen in our personal life. When we got back from that trip, Taylor was served with paperwork. Like, we had a man waiting on our front porch with legal paperwork. So we spent the next 3 years in survival mode. Yep. And we had not had a fight up to that point. We had not had an outside conflict impact us. We lived in like a little love bubble for this whole year. And so we never really got back to the people we were 2 weeks before we got engaged. Like, that's what started us having like repetitive cycles of conflict. Because not only was the relationship kind of like honeymoon phase over, but like we were living in constant chaos and trauma. And I was in constant fight or flight, and he was in constant functional freeze. Mm-hmm. And so we went from zero conflict to, the perfect rom-com meet cute to like all heck's breaking loose. literally overnight.
Oh my gosh. So let me ask you this then, Tesha, because you had mentioned in your first marriage you were leaning into the avoidance side of your fearful avoidance whenever conflict and chaos, and honestly, you're probably just living in that space, whether an actual active conflict was taking place in any given moment or not. So were you experiencing something different in your nervous system in terms of which side of your attachment you were leaning into now that you are with a dismissive avoidant?
Oh, yeah. I thought I was losing my mind. Like, I thought that I was going crazy. I had never done conflict like this before. I just became a completely different person than the person that I knew. So the way that our conflict looked, like Taylor was very good at detaching himself and like leaving the situation. And that did not feel like safety to me at all. Like for me,
I was very good about going outside pulling weeds or something like that.
Distracting
or like,
yourself
Oh, yeah.
from the
Yeah.
situation.
Absolutely.
not wanting to talk about it. Taylor is the king of, if we are in a conflict, he can fall asleep. Like, he has like conflict narcolepsy. And I had never experienced someone like not coming toward me. Like, even when you are getting like negative fighting conflict, like they're present. And so his
Still
avoidance
connection.
to me, yes, it's still some sort of connection. You still know that, like, you know, the relationship is there. And so his avoidance to me really took me back to places in my childhood where it was like, distance isn't safe, because like that just means that this is ending, and there's going to be turmoil. And it's not just me, like my kids are attached and love this man. And like, this was supposed to be my happily ever after. This was supposed to be my, you know, second chance. And this isn't how it is supposed to look. And I would cry, and I mean, really ugly things, like things that I'm not proud of. I mean, we don't get violent, like it's not like that, but I would be loud, like I'd slam the door, I'd cry, you know, emotional outbursts. And like, I remember saying to him, like, I'm so tired of doing everything your way. We do everything your way. We do conflict your way. And like, just for once, I would like to do conflict my way and actually have a conversation. For once, I would like for you to come close to me and like meet my needs, because all we do is meet your needs. You get to like just give me the silent treatment while I'm all upset, and I just have to deal with it. I'm the only one dealing with my big feelings. It looked completely different than my first marriage and how I did conflict in that.
And you're like, who is this anxious person? I never met her in my life. Where did the Tesha that I know go?
Yeah. I was like, I don't even know who this person is. And I would even think that like while I was losing my mind, like while I was crying, while I was slamming doors, I would think like, you look like a fool. Like, I could at least process, but I could not stop. I hadn't done the nervous system work yet. And I just couldn't calm down. Like, there was a whole other part of my brain, like, screaming, like, knock it off. Like, this isn't you. What are you doing? You look like a crazy person, you know? Like, I could think those things, but I couldn't.
The emotional side of your brain was
Yeah.
taking over the rational side of your brain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when did that fight occur that was kind of like the domino effect of everything being off kilter from there?
Yeah.
6 years.
I would say
Immediately.
we were in this constant fight or flight. I shouldn't say constant. That makes it sound like we just spent the past 6 years like fighting every day. I do want to say, like, if that were the case, I think one of us would have left, you know.
It's very like small potatoes what we fight over.
Yeah, it really is. Like, the things that we fight about are small potatoes, and they just escalate, like, out of control. And we didn't spend the entire time fighting. We would have these good moments. Like, we've been on trips, we've taken the kids on trips, like, we've celebrated things. We did a CrossFit competition together. Like, we work out together. It's just when we would fight, it would be chaos. And so we would have these moments where it would be like, okay, like, there's a reason to stay in this. There's something to fight for here. But then we would get into a fight, and it would be like, how did that just happen? Like, we were upset about mail on the counter, and like we just argued for 2 days straight. So yeah, I don't want it to sound like all we did was like we got engaged and then we just got married and fought. It wasn't like that. It was more or less,
I mean,
we
when you're
weren't.
doing life together with kids and having a family, I mean, it's kind of expected.
Yeah.
Yeah, conflict is
But
inevitable no matter what. But when
yes.
two people have very competing attachment styles and very competing needs, and very competing attachment wounds, with the fearful avoidant, the fear of betrayal. Abandonment is a piece of that because abandonment is a form of betrayal, but even just something as simple as you told me you would pick up milk on your way home and you didn't, so you must not be able to be trusted, right? That's what the fearful avoidant, we're always kind of on high alert, just waiting for the next shoe to drop, right? And then with the dismissive avoidant, having the needs of peace and harmony and their biggest attachment wounds of feeling defective, feeling broken, feeling like they can't give their partner what they need ultimately because they came out the factory wrong, which is not true. But that's, the self-talk
Yeah,
that happens
yeah.
subconsciously. So if your biggest need, Tesha, is to feel seen, heard, and understood, and Taylor's biggest need is for peace and harmony, that is just constantly clashing and coming to a head, and you're activating each other's attachment wounds, and therefore the vicious cycle continues. And that's where a lot of people who are in an FADA relationship dynamic find themselves being like, what happened? Everything was so perfect at the beginning, because oftentimes the calm, cool, collected steadiness, consistency of the dismissive avoidant feels so different and safe to the fearful avoidant that they're attracted to that because you came out of a relationship that was incredibly toxic and traumatic. And so Taylor's cool, calm steadiness was like, this is the dream, this is a breath of fresh air. And then for you, Taylor, having come out of relationships where you feel like your feelings are always being minimized or dismissed or beaten down, or you're told you're stupid or you're selfish, and getting with Tesha, who's a fearful avoidant, who wants to see, hear, know, understand you to your deepest core, is a breath of fresh air for you, right? Because you feel like, oh, somebody actually wants to give me those pieces that I always felt like were too much and not allowed, right? So the initial attraction feels incredible and feels magnetic and feels like, oh my gosh, I finally met my person. But then when that honeymoon period wears off, or that first big conflict happens, then the attachment wounds that each of you hold that are very opposite of one another get activated. And it's a very, very hard cycle to break free from, especially for people that don't know anything about attachment, don't know, oh, I'm a dismissive avoidant, or, oh, I'm a fearful avoidant, and here's how I'm contributing to the problem, and being able to work on things. It goes round and round and round and round. So share with us a little bit about how you got to where you guys are today in discovering your attachment styles, and kind of like the light bulb moment that happened for both of you that has propelled you to this place that you are today, where you are working on healing your attachments and healing your marriage.
So we were really fighting about how we fight. And the problem, one of the things that we don't talk about a lot in attachment is what happens after the fight. We talk about the conflict cycle, but as a fearful avoidant, that hypervigilance, like once it's activated, that hypervigilance is always there, like scanning for danger. And you kind of hide behind this wall to protect yourself from like any bad feelings. Like you don't want to feel pain at all. But when you're hiding behind a wall, you also can't feel the good things. And so even though we were going through, like, we would have like a good day, or we would have a good trip, like it was really hard for me to like even feel connected to Taylor because I put my wall up. And it got to the point that we started fighting about how we fight. Like, it was never about anything big. It was always about small stuff. And so we started marriage counseling a few months ago, like at the beginning of this year. And she had us take attachment quizzes. And at first mine said AP. And, I was listening to AP stuff, just to kind of rewind. We took our attachment quizzes. We knew that Taylor was dismissive avoidant. We thought that I was an anxious preoccupied. And, we were at this point in our marriage where I was praying not so humble prayers. I was like, Lord, if you could smack him upside the head, because I need you to change him. And he keeps saying he doesn't do feelings, but he does do feelings because he did feelings before. We had this whole year where he did feelings. And so either he's a liar or he doesn't want to do feelings with me, or the Lord has heard an earful, but he made me and he knows I can talk a mile a minute. So he's big enough to handle the crazy prayers that I pray. And so one night I'm laying in bed doom scrolling a couple months ago, and I see this reel that's what it's like to be a dismissive avoidant in a relationship. And immediately I honed in. I was like, this is what it's like for my husband. Maybe this can give me some empathy. And I listened to this 90-second reel, and then I thought, oh my gosh, I need more of this. So then I typed dismissive avoidant into the podcast app, and yours was the third on the list, and it said deep dive. And I was like, that's what I'm here for. Deep dive. I got to know what this man is thinking. So I sent it to him. And what was
my reaction?
Yeah, what was your thought process to hearing you were dismissive avoidant, or listening to that? Or
it really made sense for me. It clicked as far as understanding my attachment style. I don't know how else to describe it, but it just clicked, and it made sense. Which this whole time I thought I was broken. Nothing could fix me. Nobody could be with me. I wasn't going to be happy. This is just who I am. It was tough. And then hearing that, it's holy cow. And then I think there were a couple other podcasts I started listening to. Can't remember which ones, but it just said DAs were the most predictable. I was like, oh crap. I had to get real with myself. I really did, because I couldn't think to myself hey, I couldn't tell myself in my head, this is not you. It point blank says, this is who you are. This is exactly who you are. And I had to be real with myself. I was like, okay, I'm a DA. And just understanding the things I do, and then replaying I guess my family, the things that have happened growing up, and then past marriages or marriage, just how I handle myself in conflict, and then realizing also hearing FAs, their attachment style. And just, I know my wife kept saying, hey, these are my needs, meet my needs. And I'm like, I don't know what your needs are. I kept saying that in my head. And I know now that when we're in conflict, she needs me to be close to her, and for the longest time, when she would be dysregulated, I felt unsafe. I really did. I felt unsafe. I need to go hide. It's like being in a tornado, you need to go hunker down. You need to go hide. Completely scared, 100%.
Yeah, awareness has been really key. And, I dove into AP stuff because we had taken an online assessment, which you and I have talked about, the online assessments not being accurate and not taking in nuance. And so yes. I wasn't even going to listen to the FA deep dive episode because that doesn't pertain to me, and I'm trying to do my own healing. But I was listening to the AP one, and I heard you say the FA DA dynamic is the most painful. And I was like, those poor souls, there's something worse than this FA or DA AP. Because this is, when we do conflict, it's awful. So what do they do? And then Taylor actually listened to the FA episode first. Yeah, I was just gosh, there's something worse than this out there. That's awful. I got to pray for them.
Oh my
And
gosh.
Taylor started listening to the FA deep dive episode, and he was like, uh, this is you. You need to listen to this. This is you. And I was like, oh, we are the bad one.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
So yeah,
gosh.
yeah. So it was an eye opener for sure. Like it made everything make sense. Like how I was avoidant in my first marriage, how there are some crises, like some things that I've, had as far as like personal things and health traumas and stuff where I will go avoidant, like to prepare myself. It's like bracing for impact. And so, again, like Taylor said, it all made sense. And then hearing about his attachment style and like hearing it when you're not in a conflict, like I don't recommend that anybody listen to a deep dive in the middle of a conflict because
Yeah.
you'll be like, this is you. I told you you were, but like when you can listen to it when you're regulated, you're like, oh, I'm hurting my husband. I'm not like hurting him, like not like we're not going to actual blows, but like I'm making him afraid. Like I'm making him feel his own dysregulation. Like his freeze response is just as dysregulated as my fight or flight. And so to know that, it was a game changer. We are at the very beginnings of healing this. Like we see the light at the end of the tunnel and we're like starting to take little steps of faith and trust toward that light. But when you have been in this cycle for so long, those little steps feel like giant miracles. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, it's just been kind of a game changer. But I will say, in hearing the FA-DA dynamic and hearing about the DA, and I know Taylor had some pretty strong feelings about like first hearing about attachment, like his attachment style. As an FA who is hearing the DA attachment style information, my knee jerk and like the whole reason that we were like, we've got to do this with you is that my knee jerk was, I have to pick my heart right now.
Yeah.
I have to either accept that my husband is never going to be able to meet my needs and be okay with being in a marriage for the rest of my life without my emotional needs being met, or I can continue to fight for my needs knowing that it's going to push him away and end our marriage. Initially hearing about our styles, I was just like a little like hopeless. And I did not see that there was an option C of like healing. Like it took me a couple days, but I was like, what heart am I going to pick? Do I pick his attachment style over my needs?
Or do I
would
just
say
keep
for
pushing
me,
him away by
Yeah.
trying to force my needs on him? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. But yes, and that's where a lot of people find themselves is like a darned if you do, darned if you don't. Like
Yeah.
either I stay and I sacrifice my needs ever being met and understanding where they're coming from, or I try to force it upon them and push them away even more, and then this all ends up in flames, right?
Yeah.
And so many people are in the same exact fearful avoidant, dismissive avoidant relationship dynamic at that crossroads, thinking those are the only two options. But the beautiful thing about attachment is that there is another option where healing is possible, and having the best relationship, a better relationship than you ever even could have imagined, by understanding yourself and understanding your partner and vice versa, can lead to such incredible things for the fearful avoidant and dismissive avoidant dynamic if both people are fully in on each other and fully in on making the necessary changes. And that is just such a beautiful thing. And I commend both of you. And Taylor, the fact that, you had that light bulb moment of, oh my gosh, no, this makes total sense. I need to not be in denial about it and just, accept the fact that this is really like fully speaking to me of who I am and how I am in relationships. That's honestly the biggest hurdle for the dismissive avoidant, because when that wound of defectiveness is activated, they will avoid reality in a sense, of being like, nope, this is just me, like something's wrong with you, not me.
No,
Because
yeah,
if I
I
admit that
played
something's wrong with
that.
me, then I am admitting that I am in fact defective, which you're not, but that's what your subconscious is telling you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've played that so many times. I played that card so many times in my life, and I just knew, like, I mean, yes, it was great that now there's a roadmap, but it was very, very hard to hear, like, the negative stuff about the DAs. Like,
Yeah.
it hurt me big time. Like nobody wants to be in a relationship with you, run, run. That's all I kept hearing was, if you're in a relationship with a DA, you just run. And I'm like, gosh, like,
I hope that's not what you heard from me,
no, it's
from
just,
my deep dive.
I think it's,
No, it was some other podcasts
mhm,
and
Okay, okay,
reels
I'm
and
like,
stuff.
oh my gosh.
Once you start doing the digging and the research on this, then your algorithm is just
yeah,
filled with
Yes, okay.
attachment. And not all of it is helpful information or
Yeah,
inspiring.
right.
So, yeah.
But we
yes.
were new at it, and it's just, I try to get all the information I can, and just process it. I process a lot slower, but yeah, it was tough. It really was. But I also knew that in my marriage, dang, my wife, she just needs me. She really does.
Yeah, I think so. In all of this, we haven't talked about the fact that we had made a move to a rural area from the city. And so I think a big thing for Taylor, like outside looking in, is that when we initially moved, we had a hard time finding a church family and a church home. And so in the past year, we found that church home. And he started making some really positive relationships with other strong Christian men.
Yes.
And that's been
Yeah,
really big for
huge,
you
huge.
as far as like just support system and seeing other people's marriages. And he went to a men's weekend about the same time that we started marriage counseling, and came home really committed to fixing the problems in our marriage. Like, it's this culmination of like learning about this and like the Lord working in him and the Lord working through other people to really bring us to where we are today. And I mean, we've definitely done some work, so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely a combination of a lot of different things, but when you have that base understanding and awareness of why you do what you do, that just, I feel like, helps propel you forward into figuring out how to heal from there, which is amazing. That self-awareness piece is huge. I'm so blessed that you reached out to me, Tesha, on my Instagram after listening to a couple of episodes and being so open and willing to share you guys' story and where you're at in your journey. It literally makes me so happy that we have been able to form this friendship. And
Yes.
I've gotten to get to know you guys better all through a random podcast that you just so happened to stumble upon.
Yes.
It's just amazing
When I
that can be made.
tried to volunteer as tribute to be your AP guest, and then had to say, like, bad
Yes,
news, I am actually not an AP.
I know. And I'm like, wow, that keeps happening. So I don't
That
know
keeps
if the
happening, right?
AP is just honestly like on its way to extinction. um, or what, because it seems like everyone who thinks
If
they're
there's,
an AP, or at least who has reached out to me being like, I'm an anxious preoccupied. And then we start talking and I'm like, you're actually a fearful avoidant. And they're like, oh my gosh, you're right. That
oh
does
yeah.
land more with me. So they're out there somewhere. I'm just so thankful for you guys to being willing to come on together as a couple
Yeah.
to share your story. Tell us a little bit about, present day, where you're at now in the process of everything.
I mean, I've been able to really recognize my attachment style and understand kind of like why I do what I do. Really, the awareness piece has been super crucial for me. Like I said earlier, I've been able to, kind of replay previous arguments and then kind of figure out what I have done wrong. Don't really remember why we argued sometimes, but I'm able to kind of find that pattern. Like when I say finding something that I've done or we have done wrong or I have done wrong, there's a pattern. And so I'm able to reflect on it and then on how I respond. Why I'm drifting away, why I'm avoiding things and all that, like I had done since I was a child, and then I kind of realized in those moments that, like I said earlier, that's when my wife really needs me. So, and then like in my past relationships and marriage, in those times I didn't really feel safe. So I kind of retreated a lot. And now I know it's not my wife. It's really her nervous system that's doing that. And so when she's dysregulated, even though it's hard for me, that's, again, like I said, that's when she needs me to come closer to her and kind of hold her. Tell her everything's going to be okay. That I'm not going to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. So really having that playbook really helps. So it's constantly in the background of my mind, different things I can do to meet her needs. So yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Tesha?
I'd say I've been doing you and I have talked, I've been doing a lot of work on my nervous system, on my attachment style, because like I said, I thought that I was going crazy when my anxious side came out. So I have been pursuing some individual therapy before we even did the couples therapy. It makes a lot of sense. So present day, like I said, we're taking baby steps, creating some boundaries around our conflict and some rules around conflict that we both agree on, so that it's productive. And I think we're taking really small steps of knowing each other better and giving each other grace.
Mm-hmm. I will say, I forgot to mention, I do still get to take breaks.
Yeah.
I just have to communicate that.
Yes.
just don't walk out of the room without saying anything, you weirdo.
I mean, instead of, a week off not talking to my wife, I can take a break for 5 or 10 minutes, and communicating that to my wife, letting her know, hey, I need a break. I need a break.
I'm not running
away.
Set
a timer.
Forever, but I need to have some space
to have a break.
to try and regulate my own emotions.
I forgot to mention that, but for sure.
You still get your breaks. And as we've been doing this, we're trying new things and we're seeing what works. And I feel like we're becoming us again. One of the things is when you're a fearful avoidant and you're in that constant hypervigilance, it's impossible to be present in your body and feel your feelings in your body. And this week I've had these times where these waves crash over my body of warm fuzzies. I'm oh my gosh, is that a feeling? Is that a feeling in my body? Am I happy? Do I feel safe? That may sound woo-woo, but when you feel it for the first time, it's oh my gosh, I'm coming back to life. It's spring after winter. And so we're in this place of hope. Growth isn't linear. We had a conflict this week, but the way that we resolve it is so much more healthy, where we listen to understand and immediately I was oh no, we backslid, we had a conflict. And it's no, it's not about not having conflict. It's about how you resolve the conflict and how you repair the conflict. And we're celebrating small victories right now. That's where we're at.
I just love that so much. It makes me so happy because I know I have talked about that my relationship as a fearful avoidant with the dismissive avoidant that kind of spurred this whole attachment journey that I'm on. I tried to kind of have these talks about attachment with him, and it didn't go anywhere. It didn't get
Yeah.
me anywhere. And I mean, I also, I have my own faults and things that I wasn't handling correctly,
You,
being in an activated, fearful, avoidant state in that relationship. But it just makes me so happy to hear that you guys are working towards healing and not giving up on each other, because you're not doomed. You are not your attachment, believe it or not. There's something that I've been like, do I even want to say I'm a fearful avoidant? Because like the words that we speak over ourselves are so powerful. Like I was watching a sermon and she was like, you will never hear me say that I have depression, because that is me speaking that into the person that I am. Is I am this. And do I have depressive moments? Do I feel depressed sometimes? Yes, but I am not depression. Like, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe we are focusing too much on I'm a dismissive avoidant, I'm a fearful avoidant, I'm an anxious preoccupied, and that's keeping us stuck in that, rather than going, no, I have anxious preoccupied or dismissive avoidant, fearful avoidant tendencies, but I also have the power to not make that my identity, or I'm a healing fearful avoidant, a healing dismissive avoidant, a healing anxious preoccupied, because maybe we are just limiting ourselves by being like, this is who I am because this is how I was wired as a child. But there is so much hope to change that and to earn your attachment security.
There is so much hope.
So I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you guys have
Yeah.
made it here and are
Yes.
a living testament to the fearful avoidant, dismissive avoidant dynamic can work when both
Can.
people are willing to look inward and fight for the person that they love and be that ride or die, whether you're going through the best of times or the worst of times together, and heal from having these attachments basically dictate our relationships.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Any type of advice that you guys have as you're the ones currently going through this, any type of advice that you have to listeners that are finding themselves in the same boat?
I would say as a DA, you just really need to be honest with yourself. You need to figure out if you want that relationship or if you're staying out of convenience or expectation, you know? If you want it, you've got to fight for it. And I'm the type of guy that is very competitive, and I mean, I'm gonna fight for anything that I love, and especially my wife. And I know she's fighting herself as well. And I just cannot, I won't be able to live with myself if I know she's working hard to repair our marriage and working hard on herself, and I'm not doing anything. Like, that's selfish. It really is. Like I said, just fight. After hearing a lot of this stuff about attachments, it's kind of lit a fire under me to prove everyone wrong and show them that I can change. We can, for sure. And just from our experience, like when we're good, we're really good. Like, ain't nobody gonna mess with us. And so that's the place I want to get back to, and so I know we can do that. And then you just gotta be willing to try new things and get out of your comfort zone. It's tough, really is. And then for FAs, like I said, if your DA is trying, you've got to celebrate the small wins, even if it's not perfect, because to have my wife recognize like the small things that I've been doing means a lot to me. Like words, I thought I was not a words guy, but it really, really helps me a lot. I need them for sure. And it just helps create a sense of urgency for me to continue on, in that, hey, my wife recognizes this, and I'm doing a damn good job. So I'm
Yeah.
not
That
perfect,
positive
not
reinforcement goes
perfect.
a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So,
Awesome.
anyways,
So,
that's my
Taylor?
advice. Go ahead,
yeah.
babe.
So for fearful avoidance, like the first thing I would say is like, I know how bad, like, I know how physically painful it is inside your body to want to be loved and loved well. I know what it's like to feel like you were born with a love bucket with holes in it that like just can't get full and it can't stay full. It hurts my heart to know that agony for somebody else. But how we ask for love, we go about it all wrong. Like, and I know because I am a fearful avoidant, I will try 5 different ways, and all 5 of those ways are completely wrong. um, because when we are in that space and when we are fearful and when we are fully activated, like we can't co-regulate, and our partners, they're afraid and they can't hear us. Like, I don't want to say that you're fighting a losing battle. It's how you're fighting that is losing the battle for you. And so, as unfair as it feels to have to do the work first, you do. You have to be patient with your partner. Let them, Taylor says, I move at a snail's pace, I make decisions at a snail's pace. And you have to be okay with that, but you have to heal your own nervous system, heal your own attachment style. Understand that you have the capacity to meet your own need for love, that you have resources around you, and start to work with your nervous system instead of against it. I always say you have to teach yourself a strongly worded text message is not the same as a bear attack. It's uncomfortable, but it's not dangerous. Like an argument is uncomfortable, but it's not dangerous. And if you can start to sit in that discomfort and be okay with it and understand that it's temporary, then you can get regulated. And once you're regulated, like this magic happens and your partner can hear you. And then when they can hear you, because you're talking to them from a place of regulation, they actually want to meet your needs because they do love you. But I would say, like, I'd echo what Taylor says, you have to celebrate the small wins. Like, don't just be patient, don't wait around, but like, we had a situation recently where Taylor used to never apologize. He is hurt in relationships, not good enough. Like, he would apologize and be told it's not good enough, and he would not feel safe. Like, it would just start the fight, right, all over again. And so he just stopped apologizing. And I would get so frustrated. Like I said, we fought about how we fought, and I would think, it's not fair that I'm always the one to apologize first. It's not fair that I come to you first. And so we were in the gym and he got frustrated and, he had a little like outburst, and I didn't escalate. I knew he was frustrated, knew why he was frustrated. Like, I was just going to back off. And like 3 minutes later, he was like, hey, I'm really sorry I got frustrated. And I was like, oh, no big deal. Like, I accept your apology. About an hour later, I went back and I was like, hey, when you apologized in the gym, like, I don't know if you realize that was the first time, like, you've apologized first. And it meant so much to me. I just want to recognize the work that you're doing. There are women out there, you're on social media who will be like, apologies, bare minimum energy or bare minimum effort. But like, for a man who has been told apologies are not good enough, and then who has been like reintroduced to conflict because he tried, it is like moving a boulder for him. And you have to celebrate those, small wins and appreciation and recognition. That's how you speak life into your partner. That's how you speak life into that husband or that wife. There may be a relationship dynamic that's flip-flopped and the guy's the FA, but like, speaking life into your spouse is really important, and recognizing them. And it produces a gratitude inside you. Then you start to feel good about them because you're saying like that they're doing something right, because we focus on everything that they do wrong all the time. And so catching those moments and like putting them in like a bottle and holding on to them is really important. But it can happen. Like we're making the baby steps, but we're not so far out that we don't remember that we were a hot mess for a hot minute.
Yes. Ugh, I love that so much. Both of y'all's pieces of advice are so good, and you can tell that it just comes from the heart and the experience that you both have being an FA and a DA and being in this relationship together and wanting it to work. Thank you both so much for coming onto the podcast and being open and being vulnerable and sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We're
thank
happy
you.
to be here.
Can we just give it up real quick for Tesha and Taylor? I mean, honestly, shout out to them for being super brave and vulnerable. I know for a fact their journey resonates so deeply with a lot of you. I pray this was exactly what some of you needed to hear. The FA-DA relationship combo is so common. It's actually the most common dynamic Dr. Sarah Hensley sees in her practice. And the fact that Tesha and Taylor were willing to come on to the attachment confessions and give us an inside view of what's going on in real life for them is freaking powerful. If their story personally hit home and has given you a newfound hope for your own FADA relationship, I would love to hear all about it. Please DM me on my Instagram at the attachment confessions. I seriously can't wait to hear how Tesha and Taylor's story has lit a fire under what I'm sure is probably a number of you. Okay, at the beginning of this episode, I told y'all to stick around till the end, so here we are. I wanted to let you guys know of a brand new free resource guide I've put together for couples that need to talk about attachment but don't know what the heck to say or where to start. For those of us with insecure attachments, having a conversation about this stuff probably sets off all the alarms in our nervous systems. Feelings can be absolutely terrifying to talk about, right? Well, this whole idea came to light because I sent Tesha and Taylor a conversation outline of topics for them to talk through prior to us recording so that they felt fully prepared for our discussion and as ready as they possibly could be to come onto the pod. Well, Tisha shared with me how amazing the outline was for them, how it sparked such rich, helpful conversation that they've never had before. So, God's put it on my heart to make this resource available to any of you who are looking for a roadmap of how in the world to even talk about attachment with your partner. So, if you want this free couples attachment conversation guide, send me a DM on my Instagram at the attachment confessions and I'll get it sent your way. I am so excited to share this with y'all, and I pray that it helps you the same way that it helped Tesha and Taylor. All right, guys, that does it for today. Don't forget to follow or subscribe to the Attachment Confessions so that you always know when a new episode drops. And if you could pretty please leave a rating and review if you're loving what you're hearing, it only takes a minute and it helps tremendously. So, yeah, I would really appreciate it. Oh, and if you know anybody currently struggling in their relationship, or honestly, even in their singleness, please share this podcast with them. Until next time, I wish you all happy attachment healing, and I will see you right here in a couple weeks on the Attachment Confessions. Love you guys. Bye.